Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all doing on this Prosperity Day? Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Fall is here. Early winter. I don't know. So, speaking nothing missing, nothing broken over our lives, favor abundantly. And I hope you had a good Saturday and Sunday. Hope it was relaxing and enjoyable. Was on my end. No complaints. Yeah, pretty cool. In the groove, as they would say. Really enjoying the opportunity because it gets so dark so freaking early now. Uh, as many of y'all know, those of you down in Australia and New Zealand. Hello, Lauren. How you doing? How's everyone? And Gaza, and there's a number of Julie, and it's their summer. Miss those, where at least stays light till like 8 o'clock, right? But anyway, gives you a lot of time to read, catch up on things that I've been wanting to do. Here's something. By the way, hello, everybody in the chat room. So good to see you all. Thank you, moderators, and all the rest of y'all. Essence, you're all moderators. It's the way I look at it. Monakia, how are you doing? Let's see, I haven't, the chat room's going by pretty quick. So if I've missed something, I'll try to get back to it. Boy, my palm is like itchy. They say that's a good sign, right? Mm-hmm. Mark, how are you, my friend? All the way down from Brazil. Mark has a remarkable stories like Farzana. I mean, y'all are the champions. Seriously. They gave up everything and pursued a goal that for most people is just imaginary, elusive. But folks like Mark, Farzana, and there's others that they said, no, there's no challenge that's too great. And Mark, hats off to you, brother. Appreciate it. Naomi, how are you doing? Joyce, good to see you. Stephanie, Grace, what's up? Lost in Space, hello. AK Morning Star, how are you doing? Do you have an email address to contact? Yes, it's in the description. It's steigerrwayne@gmail.com. To contact you for having a guest, is that Ishmael Perez, the author of Our Cosmic Origin? I'd love that. Love to have him on. Thank you. Again, steigerrwayne@gmail.com. Excellent. That sounds exciting. See? Favor abounds. That's why I speak favor over us every time I come on, because it continues. It's like the perpetual motion machine. Once it gets started, you can't stop it. Get on board the soul train. Like that show back in the day. Exactly. Hey, Go, what's up? Good to see you all the way from Croatia. Aaron Corbett, good to see you. Deborah, hello, my dear. Mr. Floyd and Richard, how are you? Rabbit Hole Diver, I love that. So y'all have some of the really cool handles here. But anyway, back in the day. We didn't, there was that thing called the Vietnam War. I grew up in that. Many of y'all did as well. Never went there. My birthday was the last year of the draft. Fortunately, my number was like really up there. So, but we've talked about this before. The world sucked. I mean, we had Nixon. Today we got Biden. We had Vietnam, the quagmire over there. Seems like we're getting into another one over in Ukraine and, the Middle East. When are we going to learn? Let them do what they want to do. They're sovereign nations. We got no business being in their shit. you know, and things sucked. Inflation was rampant. Nixon took us off the gold standard. Today we've got Bidenomics, where you have a Congress that has advocated they've abandoned their responsibility to their citizens, us, spending wildly. Same thing back then. And it's kind of sad. From a certain perspective, you look at this and you're going, I don't think it's gotten any better. If anything, it would appear that we're going backwards. That's what we're going to be talking about today. 13, not 12. We got that wrong. What else? And we're going to be talking about science, the occult, astrology, astronomy. It's all related. If you, depending on your point of view and what you believe, if you believe in the garden story, it was said that Adam knew the universe. I don't know what that meant. I have no idea. The pre-Diluvian age. I mean, wow. And if Earth, and if the story is about Earth, then you have to say, well, then that we would have to have been in some position of the sky, right? Right. And let's just say, I don't know. Let's just use a simple round number, 10,000 years. So if the Soul Tribe was like getting together, we've done our harvest, we're really digging, the bounty, and we're passing the pipe around, and, we're looking up in the sky, got no light pollution. Isn't it odd, light pollution? But anyway, so we would look at the sky and we would begin to say, it appears to be there. And so you would kind of say, well, this is where we are in the universe. Earth, 0, 0, 0, 0, XYZ axis. This is and I guess at the time they thought that Earth was the center of the universe. Amazing, isn't it? So anyway, as we're pontificating, our existence, why we're here, what's our purpose, we're getting into deep meditation, besides getting a pretty good buzz on. And, we begin to look at things and we begin to realize that the universe seems to have these concentric circles, waves. And we observe that. Now, it's very obvious our ancestors, they knew a hell of a lot more than we do. We've got technology, but you know what technology does to humans? Makes them dumb. It does. It dumbs them down. They're complex machines that we call our brain, the cerebral complex, this whole thing, where consciousness supposedly exists, where thought is given birth individually. And as it begins to travel down, as that neon going through, and you hit the synaptic pathways, and it's amazing. So they knew some stuff. They knew a lot of stuff. And getting back to the 10,000 years, so they would have a central point. Here is a point in fact. This is according to astronomers, NASA, other astrophysicists. They say that our sky has changed. Ophiuchus, the 13th zodiac symbol is in fact legit. And here's why it's changed. Give me a second. So, for instance, if you look at the sky and you would say, okay, let's go back 3,000 years. Well, this is right before the Babylonians. It was during the Sumerian time. And apparently that's where, we get our modern day astronomy and, depends how you look at it. They knew some stuff that we didn't know. And constellations were like a big deal. It's like, hey. So when they were looking at the sky, it's not what we look at today. Things have shifted. And when things have shifted, that's when things get really interesting. Because if you don't take in consideration, even if you want to get into simple physics on this one, our movement in the universe is not stationary. We are literally doing this, like the corkscrew. That's how we're going through the universe. We're a mass and complex. We think because, we get this idea that the planets go around the sun and that we're on this plane, this galactic plane, right? But at the same time, the sun is moving at X miles an hour. The earth is moving at X miles an hour. They don't sync up. And so you have, again, this helographic move, not this one. Well, it's doing this one and it's doing that one. Complex, isn't it? And as you realize that this shifting is happening, well, then if you're using the sky, which divided by 12, because that's convenient to the calendar, but we forget that the modern calendar, the ancient people used a different calendar. And it don't match up to our calendar. So they just changed the rules, right? So you got this 13th sign because, and here's the other thing I wanted to bring this out. Give me 1 second here as we go over here. How is everybody? So good to see everyone. Yeah, live here. So give me 1 second as I'm pulling up some. So this is according to Dr. John Morris. He's an associate professor at the Department of Space Science Engineering at York University in Toronto. The question was put to him, what are the major visible changes in the night sky in the last 3,000 years as seen by the naked eye? Now, he came back and he wrote this. He said, there are two major changes that have taken place in that period of time. The first is related to changes in the rotational axis of the Earth itself. He said, imagine the changes of the rotation of a spinning top. These changes also occur in the Earth's rotation over time as well. That's key. Here's the next one that really got me. This is interesting. He said, what does this mean then to today? He said, this means that the North Star or the pole star would have been in a different position from today. That's critical. Because if you're a sailor and what have you, and you're doing your navigation, well, Polaris is where you base everything on. But if Polaris is doing this, and in this case, I think it's 23.5 degrees, well, that's a pretty good factor in if you're not factoring all. And so he said, in fact, the position held by the North Star or Polaris, as we know it, was actually occupied, get this, by a different star altogether. The North Star then was Thuban, Thuban, in the constellation Draco. Also, the constellations would have looked the same as we know them today, except for their position. Well, that's pretty big deal. And isn't it interesting, Draco? Okay, that's pretty cool stuff. So Thuban would have been the star at the North Pole. I mean, you start looking at this thing and it gets gets complicated quickly. You're going, okay, something ain't right here. By the way, when we talk about concentric waves, they form what we call complex wave functions. Now, here's the interesting thing about language. When you look at what reality is and what we perceive reality to be, in which it may not be that way at all, but we've done something. And it seems that in this dimension, even scientists have figured this out. So what they've learned is this. This is when you need to put on your ear catchers. Repeating a phrase, a prayer, a mantra, words, get this. We've known this, all of us have, but when science begins to say, well, there's something really to this, you go, we told you so. But anyway, words create a unique wave or frequency that then will create that reality around it. Now, here's something that's interesting as well. So apparently there's two different types of where you can use this creative force. And we're going to get back to the 13, but this is all part of this. So the way that we communicate as these bio beings, bioenergy, however you want to do it, there's two ways of communicating. Communication is big, language. And they're divided into two camps. One is what they call informal language, that which we speak. Really big deal. And then you have, which is the formal algorithm. Now, the difference between the two, of the language and the formal algorithm, is that creating that wave. And when we speak the word, when we think of the word, there are two creative processes that are taking place. When they are combined is when they have a direct impact. When it's combined without the emotion factor that changes the frequency or the wave, when us as human beings, when we join our thoughts and echo the words, and here's interesting, thought is not words, but all words are thought. So two clear degrees, function, frequencies of a process that is on a plane having the same impact. And when combined, again, when we join one another in thought and we become focused in on this, we repeat the phrase, the prayer, the mantra, wherever it is, this waveform that is being produced begins to have a repeating signal, can actually be measured. And this is how things in this realm work. Now, if you master this, because this is where it's interesting, all words create an effect, but not all effects create the intended intention of the word. And we should be thankful for that. You know, if you carry that recording around, if you get a digital recorder, carry it around, keep it turned on, and then play it back after you've had it on for 3 or 4 hours and listen to yourself. You really pick up on what this is going on, the self-talk. I mean, people that curse themselves a lot is quite interesting. I'll be damned. You'll hear people say that all the time. You're going, really? Really? You want that? Or, well, this would just kill you. You're going to die laughing. Really? So you really don't believe in your words, is what it's saying. It means that you just have a lot of, it's dandruff is another word. Because the dandruff are dead words that, and then people don't realize, but at the same time, you're programming this self-talk. Weird. And when that becomes a part of the phase, and a phase, then the phrase becomes the phase, which then becomes the waves. Gently on that. Emotion is a frequency that creates the wave, and if that energy stays at the same, it changes its surrounding. So if original intent, focus, is never altered or changed, and other thought becomes joined to that through other words of the thought, you can begin to control reality. And you can begin to control it for a lot of people, because most people are simpletons. The vast majority of people today are not smart. In fact, the biggest thing that we have as a culture, particularly here in the United States, is that we now have confirmed studies. We have a generation that are in school today that cannot read, they cannot write, they don't understand cursive writing. They can't pass basic math, English. They're regressing because they become a part of what I was talking about on Friday. This electromagnetic waves that we're immersed in. Well, it's now having a direct impact on our species. Now, all I got to tell you folks, and here's something: if you see this 40 years in the future, I'm telling you what your future is going to be like. It's going to suck. Yeah. So anyway, and then you have the lack of the teaching of the soul. If a person isn't taught about their soul, they become very ambiguous as to, do they even have a soul? So as we continue on, so it's all connected here. So let's get back to this thing. And by the way, the term that's used for this creative process is what they call automata. It's automata. And it basically is a term from Greek, which means self-acting, self-will, self-determining, etc. And as I want to finish out the point, so the vast majority of people today is that you have two camps that now are emerging. You have the camp that is fully cool with this being pacified. Problem is that you become bored. Boredom's terrible. It's a very dangerous thing. And then you got the other camp that's saying, we're fully aware of what's going on, and we don't want any part of that. That becomes a problem, because if enough of us get there, this is what changes governments. It's what changes companies. If you get enough people that get focused and, let's say, boycott a company, a corporation, do you know that those few voices can actually change billions of dollars? Here's the power of this. So let's say we got a group and we had a complaint against a company, large multinational company. We could then begin to create in each spot. We don't need a large number. We only need a dozen. But if we had it in multiple spots, so all these nodes are all connected because we're there for a single purpose. And this is to change policy, whatever for X company. That begins to generate a wave. And then it catches on. Because you see that wave, as it begins at the concentric expansion, begins to influence other minds. And so our small little group can literally change a board of directors. We can institute change through policy that we make our demands with. That's how it works. Powerful thing. But now, if you have those, which I call the sleaze factor of humanity, who capitalize upon this and manipulate this, they will create false illusions to manipulate that creative process. Think about the ramifications on that one. Rick says, my mind is a fantastic box of madness. Boredom, it is never. Yeah, for us gods and goddesses, boredom is hell. Anything but boredom. And so we've lost this understanding. The ancients, I would say the antediluvian cultures, they knew about these things. They understood things that today modern culture would look at it and say, you're delusional. Oh, you occultists, you're fringe thinkers, this never was. And, but yet they're very belief systems. Lynn and I, we don't celebrate Christmas. I don't want to take part of a pagan holiday that I have no belief in. And Christmas is a pagan holiday. It is Saturnalia. That's what it is. Got no Jesus. No. That's just to keep the simpletons pacified by this, and the thing about it is that now it's gotten so deep is to where it's really consumerism, materialism at the ultimate. Yeah. Weird, isn't it? And I love trees, and I'm not going to cut down a tree just for the fact of just saying that there's renewal. I mean, I understand why certain periods of our ancestors, why they did certain things, but, no, I'm not going to do it anyway. I digress. Who wrote that? Who said that? Loretta, you're right. We have basically boycotted all holidays. Yeah, it's like, I'm not falling for it. I'm just not. More people commit suicide during the quote unquote holidays. Governments pass sneaky little things in the holidays because they want to keep you entertained and detracted. And, and so it just continues to get worse and worse. But now we're going to celebrate the season of joy and peace. And you've got a large segment that actually believe that. So they get all the paganism, and it's amazing because they surround themselves with pagan symbols, pagan traditions, but yet they call it holy. No, this is about, and the whole story. There's no dude born on the 25th. That's just bullshit. We don't even know if there was a dude at all. Just saying. And, let me just tell you, the other thing that pisses me off is that people go in debt. And let me tell you, it's plain and simple about materialism. It's an endless void. It can't be satisfied. There's no satisfaction within it. The old idiom, less is best, is really true. So anyway, bah humbug, Steiger. Yeah, I know. So let's continue with this, because now it gets into about this whole thing. Ophiuchus, what so what does this mean, 13? And the thing about 13 is a very sacred number. And the way modern Westernism has taken things, it's even in the occult, 13. And what most people don't realize, it's a very lucky number, number one. Depending on how you look at it, it's the key to wisdom. It's the foundation of the door that turns the lock. So I put together a little PowerPoint just to kind of bring this thing out, because it is very, very interesting. So I put this graphic together because it really represents, it's been right there in front of us. And you got this battle today in modern astrology. You have those who refuse to bring in, which is now the center of the freaking universe. And if you look at the lower right hand, you can see where Ophiuchus lies. It's right there in the center of everything. And again, it is the man conquering, or one could say coexisting, one could say harnessing the power of the serpent. And if you look in the nighttime sky now, you can find it. It's there. I was out there last night. It's there. And getting back to this whole number 13, I've never heard one of her songs, but I always thought it was interesting about Taylor Swift. Now, she says she's admitted that she's a wise woman, a witch. Fantastic. She's obviously plugged into something that, well, many seek. Very few actually can control, and this is what it is. It's control and mastery of it. But her whole thing is 13. So you've got, the illusion of Christianity where it's the 12 disciples. 12 become very important. But no, it was 13 that were there in that meeting. 13, it goes across the board. So I want you to think about this. So I was talking about Thuban would have been then the North Star. So if you go back, so the Earth travels 584 million miles in 1 year. So keep that in mind. All right, so in 3,000 years, let's go back. So we're getting right there. In the Babylonian time, we have the whole thing of the Indus Valley. We have the Sumerians, who have long since now blended in all throughout this Fertile Crescent is what they call it. So in 3,000 years, the Earth has traveled 1,152,000,000,000 miles. So if you take 1.7 trillion miles and you divide that by the speed of light, you get that we have traveled in 3,000 years approximately 0.2980288568807359 light years. 1 light year is 6 trillion miles. And then you can do the math, so how far have we traveled in 10,000 years? Well, be very clear and seeing this one that we would be close to getting to 1 light year. Now, if we've traveled 1 light year, let's just say, the obvious thing is that the heavens up there, the stars, which, listen, that's how we traveled and conquered the ocean, traveled by the stars, right? Then it would have most likely a dramatic impact. I mean, if you're making a reading for someone and you're not including all of the signs, then how accurate can the reading be? Just asking for a friend. So On top of that, the Earth has approximately tilted 23.5 degrees. Now, this is, we know, is fact. Now, if you look at this, folks, it means right now we have been living in a magnetic reversal and that things are going back to where they were. Think about this. It's very odd. And if you think about how the wobble of the Earth's wobble is, was it 26 degrees? Is that right? No, I think it's 23 and a half, somewhere right there. But nevertheless, that's huge. And if it's not factored in, then how accurate are the conclusions? I continue. So, this is now what the wheel of the zodiac should be looking. And you can see it. It changes my sign from Gemini to Taurus. That's interesting. So let's get back and continue on this because there's something that's really going on here. I think that the ancestors realized what this meant as well. And it's a sign of changes, big time changes. I mean, we're talking freaking celestial type of stuff here, folks. I mean, yeah. So Fucus, here it is, right down here. Pick out your sign. So the symbology is significant. Look what's going on here. The serpent is not attacking. The man seems to be offering the serpent a chalice. I mean, and I'm a neophyte here. If you have something that's no deeper on that, let me know. Love to have you on, because this is significant. And if you do readings, do you use the 13th symbol when you're looking at a chart? And the thing that's got me when I was cued into this is that the way that this now looks and the way it has now positioned, Fucus is the center of everything now. Metaphorically, you could say it's the center of the universe now. We've moved out of Draco, right? And again, the symbology here, and if you know more about it, put it in the chat. Love to read the comments, because it again, it has this impact, folks. It's quite illuminating when you begin to realize if this is the way it has been for some time, you have to ask, well, how long of a time has this been that this phenomenon? Well, apparently it's been pretty recent, cosmologically speaking. So Ophiuchus is here. So it would seem now that the sun is in Ophiuchus. Weird, isn't it? And if you stop and think about this, and again, I am just a neophyte in this, but it has huge, it has its own waves, like, wow. Because again, it gets back to the serpent. Man, I've done enough videos. This is where I'm an expert. I know about the serpent. Don't know everything, but I know more than others. And so, because it has always been a mystery. And if you look at the symbolism, eternity, tree of life, I mean, There's something here that has been obviously missed. And so all of you folks, I know we're entering into Fucus right now on November 29th through December 17th. There is again something significant. And I'm not, as I said, there are others who have been studying this for decades, and their research and in what is now being brought out is wow. I mean, that's all I can say is just wow. You look at that. So, center of all things, it's significant. I mean, again, I don't have the knowledge that could probably get into a better explanation, but this is what I do know. It all goes back to the serpent. Serpent represents healing, wisdom. I mean, prosperity, abundance, knowledge. It's occupied from the earliest dynasties, cultures, kingdoms. Those who understood the serpent possessed a knowledge that the masses just miss. We've talked about this, how, taking the metaphor, if you want to say that the serpent is Satan, I don't think that's the case at all. But it's interesting because now you have esoteric studies that come in and are showing how where we are right now, apparently they saw thousands and thousands of years ago this happening. And apparently we seem to be on the verge of something happening to us. When you talk about the 10 system, when it should be the 12 system, the 12 different strands of DNA into the 12 different fractals, it's eluded us. Our modern day education, science is at best primates throwing their feces at one another. That's where our science is. Education is less. But it still looks at this thing with the serpent. This here is Inyel, tethered and imprisoned Enki in an energy field. Remember when I was talking about this complex wave function? And we're going to get into this because the Egyptians, we're going to be able to see through the hieroglyphs these machines. Maybe they're not even, I don't know if you can call them machines. So we're going to get into later this week the Book of Gates, but also, and give me got all my notes here. Yeah. So we are apparently in the time of the crossing of two worlds. We're going to get more into that. We're going to be studying about the rod of Moses, the staff of Ra. It is also said that when the Ark of the Covenant disappeared, it took captive the feminine. Yeah. So anyway, so in this energy field, because he gave to Tiamat, the first Eve, and Adamu, the self-awareness in reproduction, sex. And that's what preoccupies our species' minds all the time, sex. If it wasn't for sex, we wouldn't be talking on a device like this. We can thank sex, the desire for sex, for the advancement in technology. It was the porn industry that showed that it was not Betamax. No, it was VHS. It was the porn industry that said, well, VHS is all right, but we need something more compact, which brought the compact disc. It was the porn industry that is also driving the virtual reality world, because every virtual reality has a sex part to it. Anyway, so Eve, conscious before Adam, was, well, wait a minute. That's not the way it's supposed to. Remember, we're living in a already magnetic flip. Our science just hasn't caught up with it yet. People are going to say, well, no, it hasn't. Watch and see. So Eve, conscious before Adam is, has adorned her belly and genitals, proud of her source of pleasure. She stares at her Enki, her dad, in tethers. You can interpret that any way you want, but it's still sex. You see, I don't believe God could ever exist as a male form. No. It has to be the divine feminine. Males cannot control their genitals. Neither could male gods. It's the power of the feminine. Anyway, I digress. Moving on. But yeah, wait a minute. Here we come back to the sex thing again. So this is a modern interpretation of, again, the serpent. Now, depending on, again, what your beliefs are and what you have read or come to accept, it's my understanding that the serpents were bipedals. Walked on two legs, had two arms. But apparently their women were not like our women. Now, I say our women because, if you want to say that if these are Homo sapiens, but we know that going back to the Neanderthals, further back, there was always the woman. It is said that the Nephilim, the Raphaim, the reason why they died out, the giants, they stopped producing females. If there ain't no females, ain't nothing going to move forward. No. But anyway, the cross. This is the Jew on the stick, but it was never a man. The story is of the serpent on the cross. Weird, isn't it? Then you get into the whole thing here about serpent. I did this. I spent over an hour when we went through this because it's so freaking interesting. Serpent, meaning the divine serpent that carried souls to the next life. We're not taught that shit today, are we? Yeah, so it's the serpent that you want to meet in the afterlife. Lilith. So serpent, Rome, winged serpent on a chariot, carrying souls to the next life. If you want to advance that, you think about this: energy beings that are of a level of existence that we don't even they vibrate on a level that you can't even begin to comprehend. So in Egypt, the winged serpent guardians, king of Tut's throne, Cairo, Egypt, the serpent was mainly worshipped in Egypt as the life giver. So now we have Ophiuchus in the center, of the constellations. So in Egypt, life giver. Rome, Bath, England, the serpent is a symbol of healing. Mayan serpent is the sun god, Quetzalcoatl. Yeah, like I could really speak that language. Coming out of the mouth of the dragon. It's in the island of Cozumel. That was 1000 AD. 5 serpent crosiers were commonly carried by bishops and high Catholic Church officials in the Middle Ages. They claim that the crosier represents the shepherd's crook, but it can be traced to the divining staff or augur of the Pontifex Maximus of ancient Rome, who inherited from the priest of Babylon. It's amazing as I sit here and I look back of all these years, how we seem to continue right back to this theme again. The serpent. Serpent door handle on the Catholic Church in St. Mary's Cathedral in San Francisco, California. There you go. In picture 7, this one right over here in the middle on the right-hand side, although the serpent symbolism in Catholicism is not prevalent, there are some curious aspects like this dragon on the large papal crest in the Vatican Museum. Revelations 12:9, the dragon, the old serpent called the devil or Satan. You see, this is what bothers me, is because they're using a writing that now has had they've taken thousands of years of culture, meaning, and they've absconded it as their own. They perverted it and trying to make it to their story. The dragon is not evil, and the serpent is anything but evil. Listen, if God created a perfect environment, there would have been no division. None. So, it says, as well as the name Vatican, that raises questions. Vatus equals diviner, con equals serpent. Vatican, divining serpent. The meaning of the word Vatican comes from Latin and is the contraction of 2 words in the following way. Again, vatus, which is prophetic or diviner, and can as serpent or snake. These 2 words combined make the prophetic or made divine serpent. The Vatican is the place. So you may say that the Vatican means the place of the prophetic and worshipped serpent, a spiritual serpent that is worshipped as God. And we know from the Bible who that demonic serpent is, the devil. So the Vatican is the place of the devil. Now, see, I happen to be a contrarian. Listen, the serpent, it's everywhere. Something up with that. So there we go. So it goes over there. So take it for what it is. As I get over there. Weird, isn't it? The United States is the plume serpent. Is there a connection to this? I don't know. Appears to be. So, all the symbolism, and tomorrow with the ladies, I'm really looking forward to this, Trina, and with Jenny. This is interesting because I want to get their 2 perspectives on this. So, what say y'all? Everybody in the chat room. How y'all doing again? I know, James, what's up? I mean, you can't make this shit up, folks. I'm brilliant, but I ain't that freaking brilliant. It's It's right there in front of us. Even our science is now beginning to say, there's something about light. There's something about sound. There's something about frequency. Gee, you think? Just saying. And apparently this rod of Moses, what it was moved by was, get this, sound. Apparently in the ancient Hebrew, this was before there were even Jews. This was Moses, right? He took all this knowledge from Egypt. And again, we're going to look at the hieroglyphs. There are a number of pictures that show these machines. They're thought machines. They have the ability with the staff of Ra. Again, I am not versed enough to, I think, talk on this subject eloquently enough, but it appears to be able to convert energy, light, and sound. Now, this is important because when light expands, it contracts sound, it contracts it and magnifies it. This creates an electrical acceleration. And again, it appears that these ancient cultures understood magnetism, they understood electricity, they understood frequency, they understood light, they understood sound, and they were smart enough where they could actually have machines. Again, I call them machines. I don't know what the hell they were, but they were able to concentrate. And apparently this staff of Moses, through vibration of the vocal cords, would activate whatever this staff was, where it was said to shoot out rays of light. It would produce sound that would bring death. What the hell? Something like a lard device, you know? I immediately began to think of microwaves. But yeah. So where did that knowledge go? That's what I want to know. Well, thank you, Grace. Yeah, the connections are all there. I'm just, I feel like sometimes I'm on the hamster wheel, I'm running as fast as I can, but, I'm still missing pieces of it. And that apparently is the thing. If we could ever get our act together and everyone come together with the piece of knowledges or the piece of knowledges they have, and put this together without the elitism of intellectualism, academia, all that. But if we were able to come in here and put this together, and there are people that are doing that. I mean, we're just a small little group here. But yeah. The fifth chakra, throat sound. Isn't that interesting, Trina? Yeah, yeah. And isn't that how in Doom, Paul Atreides, he had the name that could kill? They had the device. Think about that. You see, there's people that have known about this. They fed it to us in the form of those of us who were aware enough going, well, that hand weapon, well, that ain't nothing new. Apparently, could you imagine an army of people having a device in their hand that could send out waves of sound? You would decimate your opponent. They say that that's what happened with Atlantis. They have this technology, and they fucked up, is what they did. Someone got sloppy, and yeah. It would be crazy. I agree. Well, folks, this has been so much fun. Doctor says everyone wakes up at different times. But I'm gonna have to catch on, get back and read the comments. All right, folks. We'll be here tomorrow. This is going to be ongoing. This is for me. It's like wow, and I didn't cover up half the material. We're going to get into the 12 gates. That's an interesting story because guess what? At each gate, when you finish that gate, there's a serpent there. Odd, isn't it? The very cauticus. My wife wears one. Healers, doctors. But yet you see the thing on the Pope's staff, the serpent on the cross. I don't know. Maybe it's just us. Maybe we're the only ones going, are you seeing this shit too? And I'm looking at that going, yeah. What do you think about it? And y'all are going, yeah. You gotta love it. Okay, folks. Thank you. Thank you all. You just make, I can't say enough. Sometimes words fail, but words are vibration and frequency and through the intent. And so the thank you is one of healing. It's the best way I can say. As I say, it's a gift of energy. So thanks for hitting the like button on the way out the door, right? All right, folks, we'll meet again tomorrow. And until then, if you got thoughts on this, let me know for sure. I mean, hey, I'm just, just the dude, man, just got my Mr. Natural shirt on and I'm just keeping on trucking on. Gilbert Smith, I think of you, brother. Miss Trina, see you tomorrow, dear. So Brian, right back at you. Jackie, thank you as well. And Brandy, you're a fine girl. Joyce, we'll see you later. All right, folks, much love. Rick says, boycott Bill Gates. Yeah, I can go for that. Hey, F. Kitty, you're right off the hook as well. See y'all. All right. Do, 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 do.